All right, today we are diving into the 24 hard lines. And let's get something straight right from the jump. This is not a collection of motivational quotes, not even close. The source material frames this as a manual for building internal architecture, a set of non-negotiable constraints you build inside yourself, designed to hold you together when things get tough. And this quote, right at the beginning, it really sets the tone for everything. It's asking for a different kind of attention from you. We're not here to just passively soak up some interesting ideas. No, the key word here is installation. Think of it less like reading a book and more like you're loading a new operating system onto a computer. It's got to be deliberate, it's got to be focused work.
The source immediately draws this really sharp line in the sand between this system and a system of beliefs. And, there's a really good reason for that distinction. Beliefs, well, they're often optional, aren't they? They can be things we inherit, things we change, and most importantly, they have a nasty habit of crumbling the second real pressure is applied. Hard lines, on the other hand, are designed specifically for those moments of intense pressure.
So let's break that definition down, because every single word in there matters. A hard line is a pre-commitment. It's a constraint that you choose, that you install when you're calm and thinking clearly. So it's there to take over when you're in the middle of chaos. It's not about being good or bad. This isn't a moral preference. It's presented as a structural necessity, like a load-bearing wall in a house. You wouldn't build a house without one.
Okay, Section 1, what a hard line is. To really get our heads around this, it's just as important to understand what a hard line isn't.
First up, let's be super clear. Hard lines are not rules. Rules are enforced externally, right? By society, your boss, the law, and the penalties for breaking them are usually pretty immediate. Hard lines, they're enforced internally, by you, for you, especially when nobody else is watching. The cost of crossing your own line isn't some immediate fine or punishment, it's a delayed structural consequence, the very collapse the line was designed to prevent in the first place.
Now this next part kind of flips our whole cultural idea of freedom on its head. We tend to think freedom means having zero limits, right? This philosophy argues the exact opposite. It says that a total absence of limits just produces drift, dependence, and eventually collapse. A hard line, as a chosen constraint, is what actually creates a stable trajectory. You're making a deliberate trade. You give up some momentary flexibility for long-term coherence.
And before we jump into the very first line, I have to stress this next point. It is absolutely crucial. The order matters. You can't just scroll through and pick your favorites. The system is architectural. Each line is literally the foundation for the next one. Skipping ahead doesn't make you more advanced. It just makes your whole internal structure unstable.
All right, Section 2, hard line number 1, control. Now that we've laid that foundation, let's look at the first and most important axis. This is the line that the entire internal structure is built upon.
And there it is, simple, stark, absolute. The source argues that basically every personal philosophy fails for one fundamental reason. It misplaces the locus of control. This very first hard line is designed to correct that foundational error permanently.
So this is the territory where trying to exert control is just an illusion. According to this system, trying to command your past or dictate how other people behave or guarantee a specific outcome, well, it's a recipe for failure. You can call it hope, you can call it negotiation, you can even call it fantasy, but you can't call it control.
And here's the other side of that coin. This is your kingdom. This is your full jurisdiction. Now, it might look like a small piece of territory, but within these borders, your control is absolute. Where you put your attention, the choices you make, how you respond, your behavior, this is the only ground you truly, completely command.
And look, let's be real. This line isn't supposed to make you feel warm and fuzzy. Its purpose is to eliminate all your escape routes. It's designed to slam shut the doors labeled blame or bad luck or if only. It's meant to corner you into finally, fully accepting your own agency.
Okay, Section 3, the traps of control. Accepting this line is hard because our minds are just wired with these little traps that make us misplace control all the time. So let's look at the common errors this hard line is built to dismantle. The source identifies 3 big ones. The first big mistake we make is confusing an explanation with having power. The second is confusing responsibility with fault, and the third is confusing our gut reactions with real freedom. Let's break each of those down.
Man, that quote, it just powerfully nails that first error, doesn't it? We are storytelling machines. Creating this perfect, coherent narrative for why we're stuck feels like we're doing something, like we're in control, but it isn't.
The source material is just brutal on this point. Understanding does not equal control. Only your behavior does.
This next distinction is a game changer for a lot of people. Fault is all about looking backward. It's about assigning moral guilt for something that's already happened. Responsibility, on the other hand, looks forward. It's about assigning jurisdiction for what you're going to do next. So you might not be at fault for the mess you're in, but you are always 100% responsible for your response. Focusing on fault means you're choosing to be correct instead of choosing to have agency.
And the final error is this idea that acting on our impulses is freedom. This philosophy argues the exact opposite. A person who's just ruled by impulse isn't free at all. They're predictable, and they're easily manipulated. Real freedom isn't the impulse itself. It's found in that tiny space you can create between a stimulus and your chosen response.
All right, Section 4, the price of clarity. So, installing this first hard line, it's not a simple decision. It comes at a cost. It really requires a deliberate trade-off.
So here's the deal. Here's the exchange, laid out plain and simple. You have to be willing to surrender your excuses. You have to give up your rescue fantasies, the idea that someone's going to come save you. You have to let go of the comforting story of blame. And in return for giving up all that stuff, you get something solid back. You get ground, you get agency, you get stability and clarity.
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? The ultimate promise of this whole philosophy isn't about chasing a temporary feeling like happiness. It's about stability. It's about gaining solid ground to stand on, a foundation from which you can operate effectively, especially when the world around you is just total chaos.
And we're going to close our look at this first line with one last kind of heavy warning from the source. Once a hard line is truly installed, ignorance is no longer an option. You can't pretend you don't see anymore. You will know instantly the moment you cross your own line, and you will know a cost is building up. That's the price of clarity.
So this all leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question. The source makes it clear that your internal kingdom is not a vacuum. It is already being governed. The only question is by whom? Is it governed by your deliberate, conscious choice, or by default, by your habits, your fears, and your impulses? Installing this first hard line is really just the decision to reclaim the throne.